Hey guys, Dev here. So today we're going to be taking a look at Prot Paladin loot for the next two raids, Hyjal and Black Temple. Before we jump into the gear, I just want to take a second to just mention my Patreon. If you do enjoy this type of content or any of my content that I make and you do want a way to support the channel, Patreon links below. Even a few dollars a month goes a long way to help me create videos. So consider it. All right, let's go with the gear. Just to carve face guard. This is the Kara helm. At this point, you should have replaced it with tier 5. Crystal Forge face guard should be your go-to helm at this point. Next tier, we're going to be picking up Lightbringer face guard, which is a direct replacement for Crystal Forged face guard. This is a really good helm, but there is another option as well, and that's going to be faceplate of the Impenetrable. So both the Lightbringer face guard and the faceplate of Impenetrable are pieces that you want to pick up. They serve different roles. My Lightbringer face guard is going to get the spell power enchant on it. It's going to be my threat helm. It's going to be, my 95% of the time where I'm tanking, I'm probably using this helm. Faceplate of the Impenetrable will be getting a defense enchant, and this is going to be my really heavy tanking piece that I use in block sets. I'll also show you some quick figures. So I've got these tables made up for every single piece. We've got Uncrush in yellow, Avoidance in red. That includes the avoidance that you get from defense as well. We've also got block, dodge, and parry displayed as their own, and these are only showing the ratings from each piece. So as you can see, Faceplate of the Impenetrable has an amazing 7.69% crush, which really stands out as one of the biggest defensive pieces in the entirety of next tier. So if you do want to get crush cap quite easily, this is going to be the piece that you're going to want to probably keep on some of the time. It's going to allow you to hit that uncrush cap quite easily and possibly allow you to get spell power into other pieces. Because I'm using Faceplate of the Impenetrable in my block set, I do want to mention the current block helm that we're currently running, or a lot of us are running, which is Face Guard of Determination. I know some people just go straight T5. But as you can see, this is a massive step up in stats from the old block helm, and it shows you just how far gear has come in just a few tiers. All right, so just to summarize those helms really quickly, we're looking for Lightbringer face guard for a threat set, faceplate of the Impenetrable for our super defensive set / block set when we're doing big trash pulls and whatnot. Different enchants for different jobs. Before we get too stuck in the gear, I just want to quickly touch on this one, but the importance of maintaining different sets and different pieces for different roles. So the notion that there is a correct BIS for a tank, and I've seen a lot of tanks, they put on one set of gear for the entire raid, they switch nothing out, and that's how they play the game. I think that's a really lazy way of playing Prot Pally. So a lot of the skill with Prot Pally comes from picking the correct gear for the correct job. Switching gear out from pull to pull, depending on what you're tanking, how much you're tanking. Is it a big AoE pull? Is it single target? The mobs in Tempest Keeper, a great example that do the overcharge ability, they can hit you for about 15k. You should be switching into any HP set for that because you need to get her up around like 17k to be quite comfortable. So moving into the next phase, if you want to be a great protection paladin, you should be looking at lots of different pieces, creating quite a few sets. I can do another video on all the sets that I use and how to design good sets, but there's no just one perfect item in a lot of these cases, and you're going to want to pick up a few options for each slot. Okay, so moving on to neck, we're going to use the Darkness Grasp. Next phase does bring out a new neck, Pendant of the Titans. So this is a defense rating, dodge, and hit rating. We'll see how those stack up really quickly on our graphs. The Darkness Grasp giving 4.79 on crush. And this just doesn't really stack up when you look at the 2.57% on the avoidance table. This is the one in red. A lot of the stat budget on this item comes from hit rating, and we don't really benefit that much from melee hit rating. So remembering hit rating and spell hit rating are separate stats. So this is a much better item for your druid or your warrior tank. So you really want to stick with Darkness Grasp for your defensive option. That's what I'll be doing. Let the druids and the warriors get Pendant of the Titans. So thinking about what we just spoke about with different pieces for different jobs, we're going to look at a threat option now. So 3 different options here. First of which is Vindicator's Pendant of Dominance. So this is actually a PvP neck. The stats on it are pretty crazy though. We've got 35 stam with a yellow socket. So with the yellow socket, you can go a spell power and spell hit gem. It's going to give you that extra 3 stamina and really push this into a crazy threat piece. Gives you 18 resilience as well, which is really good for maintaining uncritability when you're in a super threat set. So even breaking down the threat pieces further. So Vindicator's Pendant of Dominance would be your go-to AoE tanking threat neck. if you need more threat and you're on a boss, Brooch of Unquenchable Fury is a really nice neck. So over a 1% spell hit at level 70, you got 15% spell hit. Now what you need to remember is next phase, we're going to be using Ecstacism a lot. So that's actually going to increase the value of spell hit compared to what we get out of it for this tier. So dropping a little stamina on this piece. PvP neck is probably better overall, but it's worth a mention if you don't want to PvP. The other neck that's worth a mention real quick before we move on is Pendant to the Lost Ages. So this has a nice amount of stamina. It's got the 36 damage and healing. And where this really shines is its use effect. So it's got a 20% reduced duration on silence or interrupts. So if you're tanking trash that has a silence in any of the raids, this is a really good option. Okay, so next up come the shoulders. So Justicar shoulder guards, which have been very loyal to us. They've been a great piece. Next tier though, you're going to be breaking that 2 set for the most part. The raw stats on the new tier is just so big, you don't really want to give it up. So we're moving on to Lightbringer shoulder guards. Let's talk about the set bonus a little bit before we move on. So I've heard a lot of people get really excited for this. It says increases the mana gained from your spiritual attunement by 10%. So this brings your spiritual attunement up to 11%, not 20%. So the maths on that is a little bit janky, but I originally thought it was 20% and I was cheering, but turns out that's not the case. So Lightbringer shoulder guards are also a really great looking shoulder, so definitely something you want to pick up. So the other piece to talk about is Pauldrons of the Abyssal Fury. So because there's different shoulder enchants, it might be worth picking these up. They're not that great, but if you were going to put the defensive and the defense dodge enchant on them, they may see some play in a really defensive set. But again, I think threat is going to be the governing factor for next tier if you're planning on main tanking things. So overall, Lightbringer shoulder guards are a much better. For me personally, I'll probably still be picking up both when I can get them. I won't be rushing for the Abyssal Fury if the warrior tank wants them. But I'll be going defense dodge on one and spell power on the Lightbringer shoulder guards. Okay, so we've got the good old Justicar chest guard, which most of us are still running for the 2 set. So when you pick up your Lightbringer chest guard, this will get replaced. Your threat will now come from a lot more consecration, as well as the raw stats just being so good like we spoke about. So the only other chest that's available for this tier is Glory of the Defender. So this is a big defense, dodge, and hit rating. Again, it's better for the warrior tanks. So if the warrior wants this first, let him have it. They get so much more out of hit. But if you look at the mitigation on this one, so Lightbringer for the pure avoidance is only 1.55%. That's the red table. Glory of the Defender, 4.45%. This is a really good defensive piece for actually dodging attacks. But it will hurt your threat output. It will also get less mana back because you're getting hit less compared to just blocking attack, not getting crushed, taking in a good amount of damage and then getting that back as mana. So will I pick it up? Probably, because I do like to have a really diverse threat kit. Will I be going for it first? Nope. Let the warrior get it. Even if an off-spec warrior wants to jump in, pick this up for his tanking set before you. Not the end of the world. Lightbringer chest guard is where you're going to spend 95% of your time. Okay, for the cloaks, this is a bit of a funny one. The current cloak most of us are wearing is Allah's cloak, the Phoenix Wing cloak. The only new option next here is Peppy Shard of Pacification. Again, it's another big hit rating piece with dodge on it. Not even defense on it this time. And how they stack up is less avoidance on the Peppies. Most of the stat budget on this was spent on the 25 hit rating. Not something we want. Warriors, druids, off-spec warriors, again, let them take this. Don't fight for it. It's not even something I'm going to be looking at picking up for my kit. So for your cloak, PvP cloak still reigns supreme. It's probably one of the most balanced pieces. So we've got hit rating with resilience on this one, which when you're pushing a lot of spell power pieces in, picking up a little bit of resilience to make up for the lack of defense rating on some pieces is really handy. However, Royal Cloak of the Sunstriders is probably the best AoE tanking cloak in the game, but you might have to fight for this one if you want to get it. I personally am not a fan of taking DPS pieces away from DPS for pure trash tanking. So Sergeant's Heavy Cloak isn't that far behind when you think about it, and you don't have to make any DPS upset to get it. So if there's a spare Royal Cloak of the Sunstriders, pick it up, but if not, PvP Cloak will get the job done. The other one that's worth talking about real quickly is Ruby Drake of the Mysticant. So this has a good deal of hit rating on it. So if you're looking for a cloak that you can switch in on those exorcism demon bosses, this is a good one. Obviously hit rating is going to increase your threat by a fair bit, and we're going to get some nice exos. The thing to think about as well when we talk about hit rating, it's not necessarily the maximum amount of threat. It kind of works like expertise for warrior and druid tanks. So the good thing about expertise as well as increasing threat is it like kind of lifts the floor a little bit. So you're not going to have those big runs of when you get like, you know, a lot of resists, they get a lot of dodges, a lot of parries, can really fuck them over early on in the pool. So that's why hit rating is so good for us. Okay, so moving on to braces next. Quite a few options here. So the current braces you're probably running is a Braces of Dignity with a spell power enchant, and Wrist Guards of Determination with a stamina enchant. Upgrades next here come from Seeker's Wrist Guards. So these are going to be your 95% wrists. The other options of Eternium Shell Braces. So Eternium Shell Braces, I believe, should go to Warrior first, given the option, because it's the only wrist upgrade they have. I would take the second pair of these though. Stamina onto the Eternium Shells, spell power onto the Seeker's Wrist Guards, and you've got yourself 2 really nice pairs of braces there for different jobs. Seeker's Wrist Guards, obviously, really good Paladin loot, and this is what I'm really happy to see. You know, you've got your defense rating, shield block rating, and spell power. It's like, finally, great gear for the Pallies. It's looking really good. Eternium Shell Braceplates, 2.57% avoidance. You've only got 1% on the Seeker's Wrist Guards, but nearly 5% towards your crush cap. So they are really good. Just different braces, guys, different jobs. Are you tanking a lot of trash, or are you tanking some huge hard-hitting boss? Again, you might not have the option of always going for the super defensive options if you need to keep your threat output high. But all these little tools in the toolbox, you know, really can help you out, especially as we move into Sunwell. Okay, so for the hands, Crystal Forge handguards. This is what I've been wearing 95% of the time right now. In my super mitigation set though, I do have Royal Gauntlets of the Silver Moon. Next here, we've got the Lightbringer handguards, and these are really nice hands. So I'm going to be wearing these 95% of the time. These are going to be my, you know, my balance set, my threat set hands. Haven't decided what gem I'm going in. Maybe a glowing for some stamina spell power, probably something like that. If you're a pass queen, you love to smash your passes, spell power enchant. If you actually want to maximize your threat, 2% threat. Gauntlets of Enforcement are the other options this tier. These are 100% a warrior item. Please do not bid on these. Please do not try and convince your loot council these are good for you. They are not. Let the warriors get them. Beautiful expertise, which warriors get a lot of value out of, and defense. A little bit of shield block value as well for the... It increases their shield stun a little bit. We don't really get any offensive threat out of that. So great warrior hands. Good to see, but not for us. Okay, so this is how the hands stack up. We've got the Lightbringers sitting ahead for mitigation and on par with the Crystal Forge in terms of your crush cap. And most pieces here are going to be climbing in terms of crush cap. So you're probably going to be ended up with like a lot of bonus stats. So if a piece loses a 0.1% from crush, it's not the end of the world. Not when you're picking up such a big amount of avoidance. And it's going to make you feel tankier overall. So, okay, belts. There are so many belts. There are enough belts you could wear one around your head as a headscarf, to be honest. Okay, so current belts we're currently running. Crimson Girdle of the Indomitable from Morose is still a great belt. This belt is actually a little bit overtuned for when it came out. Belt of the Guardian is a good threat option. The best defensive belt in the game right now is Girdle of the Invulnerable from SSC. New belts that are coming out. So Girdle of Mighty Resolve. So this is obviously a piece designed for Paladin. We've got defense, block rating, block value, damage and healing. The other belt that exists is Girdle of Stability. So these have the same amount of stamina on them. So 50, 56, 56. The Girdle of Stability is a little bit better for Warrior, but it's not really even worth taking as a Paladin at this point. Girdle of Mighty Resolve is just so good. So nearly 5% towards our crush cap. The Girdle of Stability doesn't really come with a huge amount of avoidance. Like a lot of the pieces we look at, we're like, okay, this one is good for avoidance, this one is good for threat. Girdle of Mighty Resolve just feels stronger in every way, shape, and form. It's got a lot of shield block value, but doesn't really lean into us. So girdle of stability for the warriors, girdle of mighty resolve for the paladins. Not too much loot discussion there. Nice and easy. It's nice when it's like that one. Okay, so moving on to the legs. So we've got the tier 6, the Lightbringers. So these have a nice amount of stem. They've got the defense, they've got the dodge, they've got the damage and healing. And then we also have these really interestingly and quite strange legs. Praetorian's leg guards. So they have a massive amount of stamina, 75 stamina. Dodge, parry, hit. No defense on a tanking piece, which is quite interesting. So warriors are probably finding at this point that they've got so much defense that they don't need to put defense on every single piece. So this is where I think this piece was designed for. So this is definitely a warrior first piece. However, I'll be picking up the second of these and going all blue gems with a stamina and an agi enchant. For my Lightbringer leg guards, I'm going to be going spell power and stamina, the caster one. Use these as my threat set. Use Praetorian's leg guards as my defensive set. The Praetorian's leg guards are actually a little bit behind Lightbringers in terms of the raw avoidance, but the amount of stamina that we're going to stack onto those is just going to be absolutely nutty. So it's going to increase our EHP, which is really nice. But most of the time, I'll be spending my life in the Lightbringers and only wearing the Praetorians if I need to get super tanky. Quite an interesting pick on the legs there. So let's move on. Pick up both of those. Don't steal the first Praetorian's leg guards from the warrior if they want them. All right, moving on to boots. So I'll quickly just show you the 2 blacksmithing options. These only really count if you're a blacksmith. Most of you should be in Boots of the Resilient, or if you've not got lucky on these, you'll probably be in Battle Scars from Kara. So Boots of the Resilient still holding up really well. So I've actually been asked quite a few times this week if people should switch to blacksmithing to make these boots, and the answer is no. The reason for that is Tide Stomper's Greaves exist from the first boss of Black Temple. Completely uncontested boots. These have got spell power on them, so the warriors won't be stealing them off you. Also got defense and a good amount of dodge, which is real nice. So these are going to be your go-to boots. The other boots that exist come from Shade of Akama. Again, a hit rating piece, so geared a little bit more towards the warrior tanks. Miradom's treads are slightly ahead in terms of avoidance, and Crush Cap for that matter, but you do lose the 30 spell power. The Tide Stomper's Greaves are so close that it's not really worth considering it losing 30 spell power when the boots are this tightly stacked. They've got the same sockets, 2 sockets in each, 56 stamina, trading spell power for hit. It's a threat loss. So grab Tide Stompers, call it a day. You shouldn't need the Miradom's treads, but if you get unlucky and you end 2 Miradom's treads, 0 Tide Stompers, pick up the second pair of Miradoms until you can get your hands on the Tide Stompers Greaves. Okay, that sums up head to toes for loot. If it's a few days after this video has gone live, there'll be a link on the screen right now to part 2, which is all the trinkets, rings, and weapons. Go watch that one. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that sub and consider the Patreon. See you in the next one.